How about them tops, son?
All day. SEC boys. SEC. They supposed to be SEC. Crazy all day, baby.
You're listening to the Red Out Podcast.
Welcome into another Red Out Podcast. I'm Devin. We've got a bunch of TTR riders in the house. We got Ross.
Hey, guys.
We got Jared.
What's up?
And we got Matt.
Hello.
Hey, I mean, it's pretty exciting having Matt 2 weeks in a row. Usually it's like, I'm busy, sorry guys. But we got Matt, so yeah. So first I'd like to start off with the plug here, guys. Always remember to like, share, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. And we'll keep pumping out the WKU news. And you can follow the Towel Rack. They are on... sorry, my little lizard's starting to move around. Follow the Towel Rack. They've got content every day. Matt, Ross, Jared, all the guys are always writing something about Western. And it's always informative. And it is just from the love of our hearts that we'd like to do this stuff for you all. So, on that note, I would like to remind everybody, we're recording this on September 11th. So we're just going to take a moment to remember what today is. 18 years ago this morning, September 11th happened. And for those of you who are young and may not remember it, you know, you can look it up on YouTube. But we're just going to kind of pause for a second here and think about those people, okay? Thank you all. You know, I was in middle school. Jared probably wasn't born yet.
No, I was. I remember it. I am that old.
8th grade, I think, is what I was in.
That's what I was in.
I was in 2nd grade.
I was 6th grade.
I was 8th grade. It was U.S. history class, and like I know a lot of people say that their teachers didn't turn it on or anything, but ours did.
Yeah, mine didn't. Because I mean, we were a lot younger and everything. We were like one of the elementary schools. It was like 2nd through 4th grade, so they did a really good job as far as not really telling us what was going on, and like if they were going to make it to where all the parents would be able to explain it to all the kids instead of them kind of like freaking out. Like, I know when I finally got out of school, like, I would walk home, and there's, like, these woods that divide the school from my house. Like, it's really close. And my mom met me at the edge of the wood line, which was kind of unusual because usually I just walk all the way home, and she met me there and walked with me back and was telling me about everything that was going on. That way I kind of already know. And then when I got home, I saw it. It was all over TV and everything like that. So, I mean, just seeing all of that at such a young age, it does take a toll on you.
Matt, did you get to see any of it, or did, I guess that'd be Drake's Creek, did they kind of censor you all?
Well, I actually lived in Nashville then.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah, that's all right. I was at Meg's Maintenance School for, believe it or not, supposed to be smart people. I don't know how I got in there. But anyway.
Yeah, no clue.
Yeah, I hadn't figured it out. But anyway, it broke my self-confidence because they were all smart. But anyway, yeah, no. We heard about it, and the principal actually, her son was teaching at the school across the street from the Twin Towers. Like, I guess it's kind of an underground school kind of thing.
Oh my gosh!
And so she couldn't get a hold of him, so she didn't know what was going on with him. So she was asking for us to pray and stuff, and then we went to another classroom because not every classroom had TVs. And we went in and watched the news for, I'd say, a good hour and a half. And it was one of those things, you know, you're 11 or 12 years old, and I mean, it sticks in your memory forever. It was horrifying, and just don't expect to go to school and have that happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I will throw this out to our listeners. There is a YouTube video out there, and I cannot remember the title of it. It's a little documentary. And they actually cover the largest migration of people during 9/11. So what happened was everybody was stuck on that island, Manhattan Island, during the attacks. And so once the attacks happened, everybody starts flooding down, and they close roads and everything else, so people are on foot. And these guys start taking boats from mainland New York, New Jersey, wherever around there, and they're taking the boats over and getting people, and they take them back. And I think they said it was the largest migration of people since Dunkirk in World War II. So yeah, it was really crazy. Ross, where were you? Louisville?
Oldham County, where I actually grew up.
Oldham County. Okay.
Crestwood.
Okay.
Just a suburb county, just like
Oh, I know where Oldham is. You're fine. Woohoo!
Yeah. I was in 8th grade. I'm trying to think which class it was. I think it was. I don't think it was math class or something like that. But I just remember, I remember hearing the stories, and there was a girl whose dad was a pilot, and she was torn up about it, and he ended up being fine. But just remember everybody being scared, and then getting home from school that day. I think we watched the news for like 2 or 3 weeks straight until like the sports came back and everything else. It was crazy. I think they say that every generation has that moment. I think whether it be Pearl Harbor for our grandparents or great grandparents, or JFK assassination, or the Challenger space shuttle disaster, I think definitely 9/11 was ours. And it's kind of just crazy that it's been 18 years already. It seems like it was yesterday. So
I agree. It is definitely a moment where it was like, where were you? It's something that sticks with us, our generation, I know for sure. My brother at the time, I think he was 2 years old, so he doesn't remember it at all. So, it's one of those things that if you're younger and you don't remember it, there are tons of things on YouTube, reports and old recordings and stuff. You can go back and watch that and just see kind of like the craziness of the day. But, lighter note, winners and losers for this past week. My big one, he just can't stay out of the news, is Antonio Brown. He's got some allegations against him. I'm not going to go into them because I don't have the lawyer on the show to stop me. But he's been accused by a female trainer of allegations of sexual harassment or sexual assault, and just going to leave it at that. It's whatever. The one that really cracks me up this week, and I will go into, is Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously, dude?
Watch.
Yes. He's wanting to wear a $200,000 to $350,000 watch on the field, and the NFL said, no. Why? And he's like, well, if people can wear knee braces that are plastic, I should be able to wear my $350,000 watch.
I don't think he needs to know what time it is on the field, though. I mean, he has the game clock. He has, like, the snap count. I mean, I don't know what else he really needs.
I agree. Ross, do you have any winners and losers?
not really any winners that are, just jumping out at me, but I do got a recent story that I just saw within the last hour. It was justify the, I guess a year or two ago, the Triple Crown winner in horse racing. Apparently he failed a test a couple months before the Kentucky Derby that year, and basically the sports officials kind of swept it under the rug. So not a good day for horse racing when it, and that's really big in our state. So, another black eye in the sport that's been dealing with, horse deaths and a bunch of other stuff going on. So
yeah, crazy stuff.
It's something to keep an eye on. Like that's, the Triple Crown is one of the few things that still gives the sport attention, and not a good look. So
no, definitely not. Yeah, I don't know what they'll do with that, but we'll have to see. Matt, do you have any winners and losers, buddy?
Yeah, I'm kind of like Ross. I was kind of struggling to find some, but I did. I did a little bit of a stretch. I was looking at a winner as Sunbelt football. Maybe this will start a little conversation about whether we should be in the Sunbelt or not. But I'm firmly believe we're good. I'm glad to be in Conference USA. But anyway. The Sun Belt, you talk about Georgia State, and you look at some of their other teams doing pretty well, and they have some games against Conference USA that they could be even further ahead of us. But that brings me to the loser, which is Conference USA football. And I've got a State of Conference USA coming out, but it's pretty bleak as far as some things that have been going on. You know, Western lost to UCA, and then you also have several teams that barely beat, like Grambling State and Norfolk State, stuff like this. So it really makes Conference USA look like a pretty weak conference. So that's my winners and losers.
And I mean, it could be just a off year for Conference USA. I mean, last year FIU was a powerhouse. You know, Marshall and them. I mean, either they were a powerhouse or we were really bad. So you take that out.
Something to say about what you said, Matt, as far as the Sun Belt versus Conference USA this year. There's 7 teams in the Conference USA that are in the CBS bottom top 25. So, yeah, that's kind of not a good thing. And that's with Western out of it, too. If you put Western in there,
right.
8 of the 12 or 14 schools, I don't know how many we have now in the Conference USA in the bottom 25.
14,
not a good thing.
Yeah, 14 and a half. I mean, it's difficult. I think we know firsthand that when you're at the bottom level of Division I, whether it be Conference USA, Sun Belt, or the MAC, that, you know, it's so hard to maintain consistency. And I'll give Sun Belt some credit a little bit. They have programs like at Arkansas State, Georgia Southern, that football is their number one sport, while, you know, there's a lot of programs in Conference USA. Like North Texas was just disappointment. They were supposed to be head and shoulders. FIU, like, the teams, you know, I would say like Marshall's really the only team that's been consistent over the last decade when it comes to, you know, getting 7 to 10 wins a season. And we don't have that consistency in the conference. I mean, we all want Western to get back there, but it's just so fragile. And if you know, if you don't make a good hire, it just bite you. And I mean, we're jockeying for position in the bottom 3. We're not that close to the AAC or the Mountain West. So
yeah, I can see that. Jared, have I asked you for your winners and losers?
No, you haven't, but I got to say that my loser, not just for this week, but the entire year, is probably going to be the Miami Dolphins. 59-10 against the Ravens. At least they know how to tank right. I will say that. They will get
Jared,
3
I've
first-round draft picks and probably the number 1 overall pick. So this is a please tank year, get a good draft pick, rebuild in the draft, and then maybe have a shot at the AFC East maybe 20 to 30 years from now. We'll see. I don't know.
That's being
30 years.
That's being really optimistic on the 20 to 30 years right there. So Ross, what did you say, buddy?
I said that thank you, Dolphins. I had Lamar on my fantasy team.
You're welcome, Ross.
Just took me to a solid 20-point Week 1 win. So, you know, I mean, you're kind of like Hootie and the Blowfish. The Dolphins make you cry.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Flipper all over again.
Alrighty then. Yeah, speaking of fantasy football, does anybody else here play fantasy?
No. I know I would do terrible.
But I haven't looked at my team.
Yeah, I was going to say, Matt, that was something that I actually really enjoyed playing fantasy, and I'm the GM of my league, the whatever you want to call them. I'm the commissioner of 2 leagues, and I just basically just restart them every year. I don't really even check them. I think one team I've got Patrick Mahomes, and the other one I've got like Cam Newton, so... You know, it's just one of those, I'm like, okay, cool. And then I won't check it again. But anyway.
Yep.
So, some other winners. We got volleyball and soccer news. Ross, you want to take that for us, buddy?
Sure. I guess the really good news is WKU Volleyball is back to being dominant again.
It's a tradition.
Yeah, they kind of had, by their standards, probably their worst season in almost 2 decades last season. Still won 20 games, still finished second in the conference, but weren't really the dominant force. Well, they're back with a vengeance this year now. This past weekend, they played in the Louisville Invitational with number 24 Louisville, Arizona State, and Tennessee Tech. They beat Arizona State 3-1. Played Louisville really tough. It was tied at 1-1, and then they kind of faded, lost 1-3. And then they swept Tennessee Tech on Saturday to go 2-1. And then they had their home opener on yesterday on Tuesday against Eastern and swept them 3-0. So look on the year, most of their wins have been 3-0 or 3-1. So back to a great start. They've got a good tournament here in Bowling Green this weekend, including Ohio State coming to town. So they could go on a little run and before Conference USA and maybe get themselves set up for a good seed if they dominate like they've had in the past. So really good job by volleyball.
I mean, of course, Western volleyball has always been dominant. I think it's been dominant since Ross and I were at Western. So, I mean, that's a legacy right there as far as that goes.
Travis Hudson's the man.
He is. He really is.
Oh, I love Hud.
Yeah, he's great at. I mean, he's obviously great at what he does. And then, I mean, I guess the other winner is Western beating FIU. I think Matt was probably one of the few that predicted that last week. I didn't
predict it, but I thought it was possible.
Okay.
I don't think anybody on the staff predicted that FIU would win. Looking back at the preseason, no one did.
I don't think you could predict it, especially after losing to UCA. So.
Oh, I agree. I mean, that was such a downheartening thing. I'm going to try and look it up real quick and see if any of us put FIU.
We didn't. I looked at it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty 100% sure that no one picked FIU.
No, you're good.
It's just a Hilltopper tradition to lose the games you're not supposed to, but also win the games you're not supposed to. So. That's just how it is.
I use that language verbatim, Jared, in my predictions. I said they'll win some games they're not supposed to and lose, and thus far, hey, we're there. So
I mean,
this week.
that's just how things go, apparently. So let's just hope, like you said, they carry it on into this week. Western won 20-14 with an atrocious announcing crew coming from ESPN Plus. For those of you who watched on ESPN Plus,
God bless you.
Yes, I did. I watched it on ESPN Plus, and literally, I think I had it on for 2 seconds, and I turned off the sound and turned on Randy Lee on the radio on my phone because it was just that awful. That was right after Duncan's interception. I think I turned the sound off. Which wasn't, maybe a minute or two into the game. So, and then I tried to listen to them at halftime, and I just couldn't take it. They were, I know it's just a hodgepodge thing, so, forgive me, but it was awful. So anybody else watch the game?
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Jared, what did you think, buddy?
It was good. I was doing all the tweets and the recap for the towel rack, and, I mean, when I could actually see things happening with the camera angles that they used. I mean,
oh my God!
As far as how Western actually looked,
I forgot about
they
that.
looked
That
pretty
was
good.
worse
I
than
mean,
the announcing.
the defense held them to 66 passing yards, which is incredible. Because, I mean, I know they've had the issues in the secondary. I mean, they did against UCA, but they've tightened up a little bit, even though FIU kind of ran the ball a little more. They were getting eat up by the jet sweeps and stuff that they were doing. But other than that, the defense looked solid. Defensive line is really good. Impressed with all of those guys. They're doing a solid job. The offense, I mean, Duncan, that pick six, that definitely wasn't good. I mean, he still needs to get his interceptions down. He's got 4 in 2 games. So, I mean, if he gets that cleaned up, he's going to be really solid. But, I mean, like I saw Coach Helton say in one of his press conferences since then, I mean, you just got to let him have this time to be able to progress and be able to get all this experience to hopefully cut that down. I mean, he's not going to get any better if he doesn't play. So, I mean, I kind of agree with that. I understand where he's coming from.
So, Matt, did you watch the game, and what did you think?
Oh, yeah, I watched it. Wouldn't miss it. And, yeah, I mean, honestly, we were talking about nobody predicted. I was going through stuff and I was doing keys of the game and stuff like that. And, I mean, you had the feeling that if things go right and they play pretty well, I mean, they could win. And ended up that they didn't necessarily dominate the score, but just about everything else you look at, stats-wise and everything, we pretty much dominated. Upper 300s in yards to low 200s for FIU. Held them to 66 passing yards after giving up 404 the week before. They had to adjust after the starting quarterback goes down. It completely changes the style of the game. FIU's running jet sweeps, and they probably didn't expect it, and they had to adjust to that, and I thought they ended up shutting the sweeps down later in the game. I mean, I thought they did a really good job. We have we're really good in the trenches this year on both sides. I think is really helping us out to first of all stay in games and control games that we don't necessarily have explosive skill players. It seems like we, the receivers are debatably. I mean, they're pretty decent, but they're not great. And then we have the secondary and the rest of the defense that hasn't forced a turnover yet. So, despite all that, we're controlling the trenches, and it's given us opportunity to be in games that maybe otherwise we shouldn't, or maybe squeak out some games that, like this game, we didn't score for the. It was within a score in the last 21 minutes of the game, and it kept FIU from scoring that entire time. So, pretty impressive performance, and just bedded out a tough win against what's supposed to be a pretty good opponent.
Yeah, I mean, FIU was preseason second place for Conference USA, so I mean, that was a major win for us. I completely agree with everything you all have said so far. The defensive line has played awesome. The only thing I could say about defense is I wish we could get some turnovers, force some turnovers. There was a couple plays I think that could have gone either way, and luckily for us, the football gods kind of smiled on us. The big play I remember is when Kaylin Wiggins fumbled with it. What was it, on the 5 or it was inside the 10-yard line? I remember.
Yeah,
and he knocked it back to like the 16-yard line or something like that.
I thought when they were there on like the 1 or 2, I was like, we're gonna find a way to Western this or whatever. It was so, our D line's disrupted between Juwan Jones, D'Angelo Malone, and we've got some really solid interior guys that kind of hold their own too. So
Jalen George is the one that's been done the most.
Yeah, Jalen's done
He's
awesome.
been pretty good.
The only thing, like I was saying, with that fumble and Kaylin Wiggins having to come out, that drive was basically shut down right there. And the other play that was concerning to me, not defensively but offensively, is when Duncan was rolling right, and he went to throw and he fumbled. I was like, oh God, here we go again. We're gonna, as Ross says, we're gonna Western this one. But
that's the thing with Duncan, and you still see fans calling for story online. I totally agree with the coaching staff. You got to let the cake bake and let him develop. It's just he's got to keep that concentration level up the whole game. It's like those fumbles or where he kind of short armed that pass on that one-handed interception. Where if he threw that hard, who was that, Pearson in the corner? It's just Duncan's got to take, you've got the experience, you've got the job secure. Now take the ball and run with it. If Duncan ends up losing the job, he only has one person to blame, and that's himself. So.
I think Duncan has the. I know I was a Davis Shanley fan at the beginning, and I still am. But at the end of the day, I'm a Western fan, and so if Coach says that he's going with Duncan, I'm with Duncan too. I think Duncan has had an ankle injury for one thing. If you look at his tape job during the game, that's called a spat, and that's not just for looks, because if it was, he'd have done both ankles. But that's a full, is what they call that. Okay. So when we did those at Western, it was usually for stability and trying to keep that ankle, still. And I honestly, after thinking about the UCA game, I think that's what happened. I think he might have rolled his ankle on a play there.
That's a great observation, man. I did not notice that. It's a good point.
Well, and the reason I said that, I know I was kind of hard on him in my recap after the UCA game, and the way he ran, he just looked like he was, I don't know, he was uncomfortable. He was really stiff. He didn't look like somebody who was trying to sprint. He was just kind of like boom, 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 and it was like, what the heck's going on here? But if I had to tell if I had to tell Stephen Duncan one thing, it's your job, buddy. You go out there and play ball. Don't worry about anybody else. Go through your progression, do your thing, just play ball. Don't be nervous. Don't try to force things. You got this, People are going to complain because that's just how Bowling Green is. But
Amen.
you just do you. It'll be fine. Just
Well said.
Just cut out the interceptions. But other than that, I think Steven did a good job. Gage Walker.
Some other good unsung heroes too. If you don't get to. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm not going to name everybody. Obviously, Ty Story did come in the game. He didn't really do anything, but he came into the game. I mean, we had Lucky Jackson really step up this game. It was good to see him show up.
Shout out to Kyle
Munson.
Fortenberry as well. He did really solid.
Yes, and that's what
Tight in you.
That's what I was talking to my father the other day on the phone. He's like, "Does Western not have any good tight ends?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Kyle Fortenberry." He's like, "Well, they just
Simon,
don't
if he's
throw."
healthy.
Yeah, and Josh Simon. Which Simon being the new kid on the block, it's whatever. But Fortenberry's there, and is it just me, or does Stephen Duncan not throw to Fortenberry as much?
I mean, he got to him about 5 times in the FIU game, but I hope that's a progression that he continues to do, sort of him more. Because, I mean, Western's always had a lot of bread and butter plays with the tight end on a poster out or something and being able to get a big play. And I think just about every catch that Fortenberry had was for at least a first down, so it was really solid. I think he had like 70-something receiving yards.
Yeah, 74. His average was like 14.8, and Lucky had 93 yards. Fortenberry 74, so those are the top two right there. I mean, that's a good night as far as. Go ahead.
Can you imagine how good that unit could be if they were fully healthy? Because I'm assuming Simon should be back for Louisville. I hadn't heard 100%.
He got a stinger, but they haven't said anything yet.
And he could sit. He could sit a week for a stinger. I mean, depending on the severity of it. I mean, it just depends.
Okay. Gotcha. So, I mean, if they were able to be healthy at the same time, because Fortenberry, I think he had some issues in camp or something, and he was kind of banged up a little bit. And then Simon, first game he kind of gets banged up a little bit, whatever. It was the first play of the game against FIU. That's what it was.
Okay.
But anyway. Gosh, I mean, look at the potential of those two, because Fortenberry was productive last year. He almost led the team in receiving.
Yeah.
As a tight end, and he was he was kind of a silent killer. Like, you don't really think like Kyle Fortenberry is this beast of a receiver, but he just went out and did his job. He's kind of like Jack Doyle, like he does a good job. And then Simon is this freak athlete, and they're kind of different players. Like, Simon's like the Mitchell Henry, kind of like blow up the field, kind of like run loose and run past everybody.
Yeah.
And then Fortenberry's more of a solid guy like Jack was, but they both do different things. If you could use them at the same time, man, they wouldn't know what to do against those two.
That would be, having a two tights, double wide receiver formation, that'd be awesome. I mean, and of course, okay, we were talking about this in the group chat, and my biggest question is with Clayton Bush, does he run, or is he just fair catch everything? Because, I mean, that's just what I'm seeing.
I mean, he hasn't really had many good opportunities to actually do anything with the ball yet. I mean, he hasn't had a lot of running room. They've all been getting to him pretty quick, so that's not really his fault.
Yeah, I agree. I can't blame him, because it seems like every punt is like 100 miles high, and everybody's just basically standing around him when he catches it anyway. The only thing that I was concerned with was kind of that freak play that he muffed the punt. It was just like, what? And I mean, it was one of those things that happened so quick, I was just like, ugh. But I think he's doing a good job so far. So, hey, buddy, just keep catching them.
He had an impressive interception return in the spring game. So it kind of showed off his skill a little bit, returning the ball.
Yes.
And he had a couple good moves and that kind of stuff. And so I think he's got potential. And the main thing is he's pretty solid back there. I was watching stuff in camp, and I didn't even see him returning. So I don't know if something happened that they basically said, okay, screw this, we need to find somebody else because nobody can catch the ball. And they found him and decided they were going to go with him, or what the deal was. I don't really remember him doing much during camp on return. So,
well, could he have been
a mystery to me?
Could he have been a backup to like Jakari Moses or somebody, or And then when Moses went down, was it Moses? Yeah, it was Moses, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When Moses
That's
went
right.
down,
He was in the rotation, but he was kind of in the back end. So, I don't know. I mean, I know they have LaFrance has done some stuff, and
yeah,
I thought they had Pearson and some other guys that they were kind of trying out, but I don't know if they trust him enough. It seems like they've kept him for 2 games. They obviously trust him to take care of the duties and maybe not be as massively explosive, but just do a good job.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about kind of younger guys, I guess, doing a good job. Corey Munson, 2 for 2, 100%.
Yeah, CUSA specialist of the week, too.
Yeah. 44 was his longest. And we got John Haggerty, who averaged almost 50 yards for his punts. And he had 5 of them.
Beast.
Yes, he is. I'm loving
really
that.
Had an off game.
What'd you say?
It said he really had an off game. He didn't get 55 average this time.
Yeah.
Hey,
he is incredible. Oh
yes,
my gosh.
he is. I mean, he's amazing.
I mean, he misses punts for like 45 yards.
Oh my gosh,
it's amazing.
We're gonna have to change our name to the John Haggerty rack. I fully support that.
The MVP.
That would be yeah. Which, by the way, if your punter's the MVP, I don't know how great that is. I'm just saying. So some quick stats. I think some of y'all may have mentioned them. Total yards, Western had 339, 241 passing yards, 98 rushing yards. And actually, Gage Walker had 100 yards, but I think because of Duncan's sack, it took the -2 there.
Got to get him some help.
Yeah, and I mean that's
one thing that concerns me.
What, Duncan needing help or what?
Yeah, well, Walker needs a little bit of help. He got 100 yards by himself, and then
completely
agree.
agree.
He trusted anybody else to come in and do anything for him. You get 20, 30 yards.
I agree. I agree with Ross.
Samuel got hurt. Did he get hurt at the beginning of the last game? Is that what happened? Or last year he was 600-yard running back. Yet the only 100-yard game and 80 yards a game. I'm shocked he's not the number 2 back right now.
I agree.
It's mystery.
Either doesn't fit Helton's offense, or he's just in the doghouse or something. Because it makes no sense why we don't have a 2-headed monster between Samuel and Gage. So.
There are no listed injuries on USA Today, so I'm not sure as far as injury report for Samuel. I agree though, because last year Samuel was the guy, and I don't know what's happened. LaFrance isn't, I don't think, necessarily the size guy that we need for a straight back.
Yeah, that's why we moved him to slot, probably.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he would be a great slot receiver. But Jernigan is coming in there as far as receiving and stuff like that too. So, like I said, as long as Gage had the fluids in him, I think he was going to be fine, and I think he did. But I agree, he needs a rest. We need somebody in there to do something. But like I was saying, Western, the only thing we really needed to work on, I think, is the turnovers. We got to force turnovers and be, instead of net positive, be net negative on turnovers, make the other team get the turnover. And penalties. We had 60 yards in penalties this last game, where FIU had 47 yards. I think the biggest thing also for us would be time of possession. We had 7 more minutes of possession than they did. So that really helped us out as far as just kind of slowly choking them out of the game.
And that's a testament to those lines.
Yes.
Just controlling the trenches, you don't really notice that. Like, you're just watching a game, see football, he threw the football. But when you watch the linemen right there beating each other up, Western was definitely way ahead on both sides of the ball.
Yes, I agree. Going to speed along just real quick with the Louisville preview. Western right now sits at -10 against Louisville, which, if you look at the numbers, they're kind of skewed because Louisville played Notre Dame, who was number 9, and lost 35-17, and then they played Eastern and won 42-0. So that's kind of a skewed.
I can speak pretty good to Louisville since I live up here and I actually went to both their games.
Yes, you live behind the lines, so you go right ahead, buddy. What do you think about Louisville?
Honestly, with the shape that Bobby Petrino left their program in, it's pretty amazing to see the difference that a really organized, disciplined, and somewhat likable, a pretty likable coach makes to a program like them. Basically, we could all tell last season, pretty much after the Western game, that Louisville quit on Bobby Petrino, and with disastrous results. And still mad we didn't win that game last year. It was a giant missed opportunity. But you can just see that their team plays hard. I don't know. You look at the two matchups they played. Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they hung with them. Jawan Pass, who we'll get into here in a second, I think he is the key to the game when it comes to if they live up to their potential or not. Louisville's going to run the ball like crazy. It's up to our defensive line and our linebackers, which I think linebackers is going to be huge. People like Kyle Bailey and even Devin Key coming up from safety, really cleaning up the mess from them, because Hawkins and Hall are really good for them. Against Eastern, you could just tell it was a talent advantage. I think, obviously Western's somewhere in between Notre Dame and Eastern. One thing I will say, just totally off topic, is, people like to, lump Western and Western fans with the other directional and mid-major schools in the state. We are, our fan base is head and shoulders above Eastern's, man. They
definitely.
had just one tiny little section. Like, when I went to the Louisville Western game last year, Western actually was the most attended game for Louisville. And I think, we had that entire, basically that entire part that Notre Dame filled as well. So Western fans do care. I'm interested to see the attendance this weekend in Nashville. But, in the end of the day, I think the keys, we'll get into this, would be slowing down their rushing offense and forcing pass to beat us. And then we do that, we'll be in the game.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of skip here real quick because I know Jared has to run. So, Jared, I'm going to let you do your hot takes real quick, and I might throw in a couple. And then we'll get right back to the Louisville talk, okay?
Oh boy, good. All right, so your hot takes obviously sponsored by Cold WKU Takes on Twitter. It's a solid follow. There's a few, of course. I love seeing overreactions. It always makes my day. It just solidly does. You know how everyone was overreacting after Western lost to UCA, as you would to losing an FCS school, that is. But, of course, after beating FIU, the reaction was a lot better. You had Conference USA refs, one of my favorite Twitter accounts. They said WKU is in first place of the Conference USA, Hilltoppers of the champions. And then Magical Aaron on Twitter, he said, we're going to win the league. We're going to win the league. We don't know how, we don't know why, but we're going to win the league. I thought that was really solid. My favorite one from this past week, though, Barstool FIU tweeted out after they lost to Tulane. They said, at least we got Western Kentucky next week. So I had to hit him with the how did that go for you, because obviously they lost. And one that is pending, some guy by the name of Matt McCay on Twitter, he said that Western will beat Louisville in Nashville. So, Matt, you still stand by that?
Yeah, man, let's do it. Go Tigers.
I like the optimism.
Hey, you gotta love the optimism, Matt. There is a couple on Facebook I'd like to call out. And one of these I have found myself in the same situation, so I can't say a lot. But Laura on Facebook commented on the WKU football, who agrees that Duncan needs to be replaced, thinking he's getting too frustrated, time for another quarterback, just saying. The reason that's a hot take for me is, isn't that the same thing we did last year with Sanford?
Carousel all over again.
Yeah, we can't do the carousel. I respect Helton for doing the single quarterback, just let it roll, let him work out his thing. As far as I'm concerned, Duncan's 1 for 1, so let's let him roll. And Laura also, she was on a roll the other night. She said, no offense, but Helton has bad judgment. Should have made FIU have to get 19 yards instead of 9. Okay, so I don't know.
Oh, I know what that was talking about.
Okay, so the scenario is FIU got a penalty. They were facing either 3rd and 9 or 2nd and 19, and Helton said, no, let's do the 3rd and 9. Completely agree with that call because they have to get the 9 yards. I agree, but let's say there's a freak thing happens and you go with the 2nd and 19, they get the 10 yards, then you're still at 3rd and 9.
It shows he had faith in his defense to hold them to it anyways, and I want to say that they held them on that possession too and made them punt, so I think it was worth it.
Yeah, I could go back and do the look through the plays. Yeah, but I'm not going to right now. The only thing I would say is that Western fans need to be a little more accepting to people who may not know the game as well, because there's a lot of people on her comments that say stick to your day job, and to that I say you're not a coach either, so shut up. Because why go after people like that? They don't understand that that's conventional wisdom or whatever. Just let them play. So that's my rant as far as that goes. Does anybody else have any hot takes besides Matt? Because he is a hot take.
Yeah, you're right.
I just want to say though, also was her name Kathy? Is that right? Kathy,
Karen, Lauren, yeah, sure, go for it.
Yeah, I won't say that out loud. I'll tell you afterwards. But anyway, honestly, though, to refer for that idea, honestly, I don't think it's 100% just you always make that decision. So,
no, I agree.
It's not an unreasonable thing to say, take the penalty and take 2nd and 19. It's kind of a philosophy thing. So don't rip somebody when it's debatable anyway.
Exactly,
So,
and
that's
I
my
think
thought on it.
I agree with you on that because also that could be like a scenario thing too. Because
depends on field position. It
exactly.
depends on timing of the game, all of that.
Yeah, I mean that could be like if they were like on the 10-yard line or inside the red zone there, that could be a completely different ball game. And you say that defense might need some space. No, they don't need space. Yada yada yada. But, yeah, her name's Laura. I was completely kidding, but, so, Laura, if you're listening, we love you, sweetheart. Don't think you're being shot down for no reason. So, back to Louisville, talking about the game. The spread is 10. Looks like Louisville, of course, with their stats, they're inflated since the EKU game, and Western really didn't have that game to go off because they kind of peed down their leg, so to speak, against UCA. Points per game, Louisville's got 29.5. Like I said, it's inflated. Points allowed, 17.5. That's deflated because they didn't allow any against EKU. They got 462.5. Western's had 413.5. Passing, 177. Yards rushing, 285. I think this is going to be a big test for our D-line. Matt, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think you're exactly right. I had a couple things. Ross was talking about Juwan Pass. I would say use the same game plan that you had against UCA and load up on the run and let him beat you with the pass.
Yeah.
Because he throws for 52% on the year. He does have an arm, but he's inaccurate. He can spray it. He also fumbles some and that kind of thing. So I would say make him beat you through the air.
Yeah.
Spy him, that kind of thing. Put somebody that's on him the whole game and try to make him beat you with his arm. As far as you said something about the D-line, I do think...
so there's going to be a good test this week, but go ahead.
Yeah. For sure, I think overall Louisville has improved as much as Western has in terms of kind of both teams are better. And I think Louisville's D-line is actually pretty good. They've got 8 sacks already. They had 3 against Notre Dame. So I do think that they have the ability to kind of blow up the line of scrimmage, and I'm interested to see how our offensive line does because the offensive line's only given up 1 sack so far this year.
Yeah, that's an amazing stat. And once you said that, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty incredible. They're on pace to give up 6. Obviously, they're not going to give up only 6 sacks, but hopefully this isn't the game that those percentages start playing out. But I'd say if they can hold them under 3 sacks, that's a win. If you can get down to 1 or 2, that's incredible against a really good defensive line.
Yeah. But sorry to cut you off here, but you were talking about pass. He's got 330 yards, 4 TDs, and 1 interception. And of course, Duncan's
he totally inflated those against EKU, though.
Of course, but what my point is we got Steven Duncan here, who's got 545 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. So those numbers are looking really good as far as I'm concerned with Duncan, because he's kind of had his feet held to the fire, so to speak, with Western fans and with the past 2 games. But if he can hold off to having no interceptions this game, I am completely on board with Steven Duncan.
Here's what I would say as far as like a gauge of how the game is going. I would say, because Louisville averages almost 300 yards a game, so I would say anything under 200 is a pretty good output for the defense in terms of giving up less than 200 yards rushing. If you give up over 300, that's a disaster.
Yeah.
So, and I would say between 200 and 300 is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
So, and I would say if it's between 200 and 300, you got a coin flip. If you go the other direction, you've got a kind of a blowout, or you've got definitely one team is probably going to win that game versus the other. I think that's a big indication of where this game's going to go, is how much they produce on the ground. Because in the passing game,
I would say Louisville
I don't see that
definitely has
explosiveness.
more size than us, but they don't have any depth.
Yeah.
I mean, they if they get an injury, or if somehow we can out physical them, like the depth takes place in the third or fourth quarter against the Power 5 teams. You can hang with the Power 5 team, into the third quarter, and then kind of like the LSU situation where they kind of blow it up in the end. I think in this case, I don't know if Louisville has the depth to really pull away if Western is going punch for punch with them.
Yeah, and of course that's a maturity issue too. If Western can stay up there and stay in the fight, I mean they did against FIU. They kept metaphorically keeping their foot on their throat. But this is Louisville. I'm hoping that they don't bow out just because it's a Power 5 team. But we'll see. Now Ross, who actually paid to go watch Louisville to scout them the week before we played them. What do you think, buddy?
I mean, like I said, we should have beat them last year. I mean, there should be no fear in Western's eyes coming into this one. They should see it as an opportunity, and last year was a missed opportunity. I mean, Louisville is more talented, but they're not deep. Jawan Pass is like Steven Duncan is flawed. So, like I was saying, before we ventured in the hot take territory, I don't want to, if Western can play their A game and Louisville plays their C game, there's no reason we can't be in it. We need to finish drives. That's something that 2 games we haven't been able to finish drives. It was a problem under Sanford. Unfortunately, it's kind of continued under Helton. If you want to spring an upset, you've got to finish drives. And then, like I said, we got to slow down their running game. That's the 2 keys to the game to me.
Yeah.
And turnovers, I would say, if you're going to try and upset a big-time opponent, you better be, I would say they need to be ahead. And Louisville's actually -2 in turnovers this year, so maybe it's an opportunity to get some turnovers on the cards.
Yeah, I agree. And so here's my big question. The kind of Achilles heel last year for us was that final drive with Malik Cunningham. Where is he? Is he still playing for Louisville, or what's going on there?
He's their number 2 quarterback.
Oh, he's number 2. Okay.
So,
Cool.
I mean, if I get, that's something that we got to be worried about. I think, Matt pointed this out. Playing Wiggins last week for FIU might be a really big blessing if we end up having to running into Malik, because last year he just torched us with his legs. Now we kind of are prepared playing a mobile quarterback that runs over the place. He came in after garbage time, 4 pass, and I think he ran 4 times for 70 yards against EKU.
Yeah, 74 yards. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a player like if pass is ineffective or they're desperate or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't put it behind Satterfield doing that, because I mean, obviously, if he wants to lose goodwill quickly with the Louisville fan base, lose a game like this. So
I agree. Is, of course, I'm not really worried about the Louisville fan base, but
well, no, but I'm just saying, like he's not going to hold any. He's not going to hold anything back.
No, of course, and I wouldn't expect him to. If I'm going to.
Can you imagine if we beat them? That would be beautiful.
Wouldn't
Just
it?
see the meltdown in Louisville.
Oh my gosh, they start burning couches. Oh, that's Lexington. I'm sorry. But even looking at the stats here, I think Western has the possibility to. With, like you were talking about with Wiggins, I think Western has the possibility to stop Wiggins, or pass. Sorry, I'm switching them. Yes, well, Cunningham too well. Okay, so Cunningham's the second string. So Cunningham, you think they're going to put him in to do the rush, like you were saying just now?
I don't think they will unless they're desperate. But like you said, I was just saying, like playing Wiggins. I mean, last week was a perfect dichotomy. I mean, Pass is kind of like the James Morgan was for FIU. Obviously bigger, arguably more talented, but I mean, James Morgan was an all conference level quarterback last year. He sucked against us, and then going against Wiggins, you might prepare for Cunningham. So I think last week would be great to just kind of prepare for both.
Yeah, and I kind of skipped over this during the FIU when we were talking about them, but Wiggins was a threat. I mean, that guy was quick. I didn't realize how quick he was. I kind of looked over him like, oh, a second string quarterback's coming in, and that dude was really quick. Yeah,
he totally gave him an offense. They didn't have an offense until he came in.
And
then they ended up having 150 rushing yards, pretty much because of him. I mean, he was a huge threat, and it's confusing to deal with a running quarterback. It's really hard to cover that.
Yeah, it is, and I'm not cutting down the defensive backs by any means, but they've struggled this year. And when you've got a mobile quarterback like Wiggins or Cunningham or whoever, then you have that dual threat there, and either you're going to cover the back, cover your wide receiver, cover your running back, whoever, and prevent that 20 yards, or you're going to let him run 15 until you catch him. So. That's kind of the risk you got there, but we'll see. Western's got 22.5. I think that's probably more than they had last week. I'm not sure, but we'll see. I don't remember what ESPN had us at, but Louisville's currently sitting at 77.5% winning percentage, or percentage to win, and it's supposed to be 93 degrees down in Nashville. So, listeners, I'm hoping you all are going to show up and support the Tops.
I'll bring my short shorts.
You gonna bring your short shorts?
Yeah,
if you could find a Borat banana hammock costume in red, that'd be even better. That'd be even.
Oh my gosh,
that would be hilarious. So let me scroll into our mailbag real quick. If I can find this, there we go. This guy named Matt says, "How does this win reset your expectations for the Tops?" Ross, what do you think?
I think it gets us back to my preseason prediction of 6-6. So, obviously, we all predicted. I mean, I made this comment on the Tower Rack Twitter after the game. We all predicted 1-1 after 2 games on the season. Wasn't the 1-1 that we thought it would be, but I think through 2 games we've helped him shown enough that he's gonna get yards on offense. He can move the ball. It's just teaching the team how to finish, and the defense has shown enough spunk to show me that they're gonna keep us in games unless barring injury or something. So I look at the schedule. I mean, there's no guaranteed losses on the schedule. There's also no guaranteed wins. I think we can go 6-6. I mean, like Matt said earlier, Conference USA is pretty garbage right now, and there's no reason we can't, go back to a bowl game this year. So that's kind of where I'm at after the win last week.
I agree with that. It's kind of like you said, Ross. There's no guaranteed wins. There's no guaranteed losses because I think Western has that upside potential. When everything is clicking on all cylinders, I agree. Matt, what do you think of Matt's question?
Oh, well, I think Matt had a great question, first of all.
Okay.
But no, if I can answer my own question, full disclosure.
That was yours?
Okay. Oh, my gosh. I think so. But anyway, I think what it does is it shows the potential of this team. Like FIU, they're 0-2, and they're really going to struggle to win the conference at this point because they're pretty much going to have to win out. It's very rare that you can win the division at 6-2. So anyway, but they're still a good team.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to finish 6-6, 7-5, 8-4. It's probably about where they're going to finish. They're a pretty good team, and it shows that honestly, WKU pretty much dominated them, except, like I said, by the score itself. And it just shows you the potential. They're not even firing on all cylinders. The quarterback is still making some mistakes and stuff like that. If you can kind of start forcing some turnovers and take care of the football yourself, man, I mean, this team has a significant potential. And that's what it showed me was, hey, you know what? We really could have a winning season or whatever. It's on the table.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not going to throw us under the bus and say it's not possible. We'd have to have a really drastic turn as far as the next few games. Let me pull up the schedule real quick. But while I'm doing that, Matt also asks, obviously this team has to grow. Besides quarterback, where else do you see room for improvement?
There's a lot of areas. I mean, I'm still not. Yeah, I think our cornerback situation. We had a good game, but I want to see people like Trey Meadows and dang it, who's the other corner that plays Ruff play more consistently and against more skilled receivers. I'm not sure if IU had skilled receivers, backup running back, and probably linebacker. I mean, somebody like Jaden Hunter, I'd love to see him step up. He's got all the talent in the world. I think he has 2 tackles on the season. I mean, I think if we can solidify some of those positions and build some depth at some positions, I think we can really take a good step forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think DB is one of our weaknesses. I think Duncan can be a weakness. I think he's also a strength. He has the experience. He can do well. And then there's times where things happen, whether it's in his control or not in his control. As Forrest says, stuff happens. But as far as improvement, I mean, and I know the question is asking, where do I see room for improvement? But as far as what I've seen thus far this season, D-line has improved, offensive line's improved, running back, I mean, that's one player, but I mean, going from DB to running back's amazing. I guess another area I'd like to see room for improvement would be wide receiver. They've been playing pretty consistent thus far, but I'd like to see a few more of those awesome catches as far as things go. Let's get some, there's going to be rough catches and there's going to be, rough passes at some point, but
I'd love to see somebody like Pearson, like Jockler Pearson, be that Nicholas Norris type slot receiver. That quick, shifty guy that we can draw up, and he'll just give you those chunk yards where it takes some pressure off for guys like Lucky on the outside.
Well, actually, just thinking about this, Western is actually number 1 in Conference USA right now, so that's a positive.
Attaboy.
Hey, we're 1-0, and FIU's 0-1, so you got to take it how you can get it. So, Matt, I guess I'll shoot you your own question. What do you think? Where do you see our room for improvement? What do you think?
Well, I see a couple spots. Number one, the running back, like y'all kind of covered, man. We really have to have someone that can do something besides Gage Walker. Whether it's Jakari Moses coming back from injury, whether it's Samuel, whether it's Garland LaFrance has to come back to be running back for a little bit, whatever. We have to have somebody besides him. And that even includes Stephen Duncan. If he can really be consistent in the running game, that really helps. Or whoever the quarterback is. But I also see a little bit of D-line depth, like once you take out Malone and Juwan Jones, who are your defensive ends that are going to produce? Yeah. That's something that concerns me. And, of course, linebacker is an issue. because, until this game, you had no linebacker had more than 5 tackles against UCA. And then you had Bailey went crazy. So they were actually pretty productive this last game, but they still weren't up to the standard that you need linebackers to be. So that's really a concern for me. And like you said, receiver, I know you said they've been sort of consistent, but then again, Lucky had 14 yards last game, and he has 94. And then Sloan and Pearson both had pretty good games last game, and they didn't hardly do anything this game. So if you could just get those 3 guys, maybe Jernigan that would consistently do at least 40 or 50 yards, then you got a pretty good solid core of receivers. So that's a couple areas I see for sure.
I agree with that. Those are some really good points. Shooting over to Twitter real quick. Chase Krish says, what are your areas of strength and weakness going into the U of L game? Where can you get one over on Louisville, and where can U of L capitalize on WKU? Ross, you want to go ahead and take that? So, strength and weakness going into U of L, and where can we get one on Louisville, and where can Louisville get one on us, basically?
I'd say, Western's strength has, been the offensive line and running game. I think, through 2 games, they've really, I guess the line of scrimmage in general. They've controlled the line of scrimmage in both games, and it's really served them well for the most part. I think the weakness has been consistency on the passing game, both sides. Obviously, last game was great, but until they can prove against a decent passing team that they can stop the pass, then I think, they're still suspect and still up in the air. And then, our pass, on the offense, passing-wise, Duncan's done well at times, but he's also made those 4 bonehead interceptions. You just don't know consistency what you're getting, through the air on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. Matt, what do you think, buddy?
I actually think pass, Jawan Pass is, like I said before a little bit, he's very inaccurate. And so it's a huge opportunity. You look at the DBs are a weakness for Western, but it's also a weakness for him to pass through the air. So that's an interesting matchup. It feels like maybe you could look at it 2 different ways. You could look at it as he's got an opportunity to have a decent game, or you could look at it as the DBs have a chance to not get torched. I see the passing game as an opportunity for Western to gain some yardage, because I do think that Duncan is probably going to produce a little bit more yardage through the air than pass. Obviously, if he dominates, that's great. But obviously, I would say if Louisville's trying to take advantage, their way to win is on the ground. I mean, they're averaging almost 300 yards a game. Good luck trying to truly stop them, so you've just got to try to keep them from busting huge runs. If you can keep them where they maybe say they have less than 5 runs over 25 yards, I'd say that's a pretty good performance, and you're kind of holding them at bay. If they get loose and they get 2 or 3 touchdowns on the ground from the other side of the 50, Western's screwed, and they're not going to win. So,
yeah, sounds good. My opinion, I'm kind of echoing what you guys are saying, but strength and weaknesses, I think our offensive line and defensive line are probably our strengths. Running backs are strengths. Duncan can be a strength. He can be a weakness. Not getting into that again. Where can you get one?
Here's the issue with Louisville, though, real quick. I know you're probably trying to move on. But to me, that's also a strength of Louisville.
Yeah.
So, like their defensive line, we talked about it, is pretty good. So that's an interesting battle. I don't know if that's something that Western can take advantage of, though.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It'd be great if we could shut them down.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Where can we get one over on Louisville? I was going to say our rushing yards. I think Western could be their cup of tea right there, is on the ground, like you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, Louisville did give up rushing yards to both Notre Dame and EKU, so it's their D-line and linebackers, probably size-wise, solid. They're still susceptible to the run. So
you said they had an EKU touchdown?
Well, EKU ran for a decent amount of yards.
Okay.
You know, yeah.
I was going to say they didn't have a touchdown, but that's okay. You're fine.
Yeah.
And where I was going to say Louisville could capitalize against Western would be in the air, actually. I'm going to kind of go against Matt here because if you look at yards allowed, Western's had 235 allowed in the air, and I think Louisville could capitalize on that.
Louisville has a speedy slot receiver, Tutu Atwell. That's the guy. That's the guy I'm really worried about on the jet sweeps and the take a quick slant to the house. Like Western's got to be really. Put Dart in or your best nickel back on him and hope that he doesn't get beat because that guy's good. So
yeah, and that's kind of one of my fears because Devin Keat can't be everywhere. Love the guy to death, but I don't know. The G5 beat says beat Louisville. Whoop whoop. Yep, completely agree, buddy. Scrolling through. Yeah, that's all I've got as far as the mailbag. Now, like I said at the beginning, we're doing our 9/11 tribute, and tonight we're going to do our favorite 9/11 sports tributes. So, Matt, I'll let you go first, and you may steal one of mine, so it's fine. But go ahead, buddy.
Okay. Well, I thought of this idea as what we could do because of what I saw on Twitter this morning. It gave me freaking goosebumps, and I was like, man, there's really – I don't know how you beat it. But it was right after 9/11, actually, and it was the first game back, and it was at Yankee Stadium. George W. Bush comes out, and the crowd's going crazy, and they're chanting USA and all this stuff. And he stands on the mound. And regardless of whether you're Republican, Democrat, whatever, it's just a cool moment. The whole stadium is rocking and everything, and all that. And he sits on the mound and he throws a perfect strike. And it was just like, it makes you cry. And you're just thinking about all those emotions of everybody came together at that moment, regardless of who anybody was, race, beliefs, wherever you stood. Everybody was American. That was a powerful moment for me.
I agree. Of course, I keep seeing this meme going around Facebook that they wish that every day in America could be September 12th. And for that reason, because, like you said, everybody came together, no matter political, religious, creed, or whatever. Everybody came together, and they just, it was American. You were American. It didn't matter, what came first or whatever. You were American. Ross, what do you got, buddy?
Matt kind of stole the obvious answer. I got two things, though. I'd recommend, if you're ever in the Dallas area, going to the George W. Bush Presidential Library. It's got a lot. I went during the Conference USA tournament. I think we talked about this on a past podcast, but it has a lot of stuff from September 11th at the museum, like the bullhorn, the video, and he does a little presentation where he talks about, the emotions, and he relives throwing that first pitch, and people forget. W was an athlete. He threw just like a perfect strike during that, so it was awesome. And just another thing to keep in mind for WKU fans here in a couple of years, on September 11th, 2021, the 20th anniversary, Western is going to West Point to play Army.
Oh, wow.
So, cool.
And that's only like an hour from Ground Zero, upstate New York, an hour north of New York City. So, with the military and all the pomp and circumstance, I would put that on your bucket list. I've already got my buddies who always go on a trip every year, and we've got that one circled here in a couple of years. So.
Oh, yeah. Let me say something about that. I went to, this was when it was my last year. It was under Petrino, and I actually didn't officially get traveled for that game, and I flew up with my parents and went to West Point, and that was the coolest. I think that was one of the coolest places that we went. You get to see all the history and stuff, and since I wasn't traveling with the team, I pretty much did nothing when we were up there except go to the game and help out during the game. So I got to do all the tours and stuff. Man, it was a cool place. If you're a Western fan, mark that on your calendar. It was awesome, and you won't regret going up there. It was really cool.
So you weren't traveling with the team your last year?
Yeah. I didn't get to travel every game.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll just leave that at that.
Mark left. Marquez left, and I was not in as good graces. And so I didn't travel every game.
For those of you who did not listen to our midsummer episode where Matt and Casey Tenius talked, you should go back and listen to that. There's a really good spot about right in the middle where Matt expresses what Petrino thought of him, basically. So
get out of here! My favorite part is when you bleep like 5 seconds worth of audio. It makes me cry laughing.
Oh my
time.
gosh! Actually, after I did it, I hit it and I went back and I listened, and I probably cried just as much as you did because I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, my wife, man! I showed it to her and she was laughing like crazy. It was a good one. You did a good job.
Gosh. Appreciate that. So my tribute was. When Western played Navy September 10th, 2011, which would have been the day before the 10th anniversary of 9/11. And I don't know, Matt, I don't remember if you remember this or not, when Western had the red, white, and blue logos.
Yeah.
I loved that, dude. That was the greatest thing. And,
yeah, man, I put them on the helmets.
Yeah. And I think someone in the manager's wing kind of slipped me one, so I put it on my iPad, but I think I've lost it since then. But anyway, but I think Navy, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they have like a little a pentagon around 11, and then they had that on the back of their helmets? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that part, to be honest.
That would make sense because they're closer, obviously, to DC. So.
Yes, but and like Matt was saying, like if you have the chance to go to those Army institutes, do that. Navy was really cool. We had a lot of time before. I guess it was 2010. We played Navy at.
Was it with Elson?
Well, it would have been with. Well, it may have been Elson because I looked in the 10 and
yeah, because it was 09 that we were at Navy.
Yes. You're right.
You would have been there. Mm-hmm.
Yes. In 2010, we did not play them, but 2009 we did. But anyway,
Annapolis is beautiful.
Yes, it is. It's really pretty. That's all I've got. Those were my favorite tributes. Of course, it's a little closer to home. But it was a lot of fun, and I mean, of course, it's for the reason of remembering Western, or remembering the attacks of 9/11, and kind of fitting those into. Sorry, I was thinking there was one for FAU too. Maybe that was when we played FAU. Okay, October 15th, they pulled out a. I think it was the first game in that stadium. They had a flag that was the size of a field, so...
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But that's all I've got, guys. Do you all have anything else?
I
had a few.
Go top.
What were you saying, Matt? Sorry.
I didn't know if you were asking about the patriotic sports moments or whatever, but I had a couple others. I had the Miracle on Ice, and...
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I wasn't even there. Obviously, it was 1980. But
yeah, I was gonna say it was before pre-us. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I look good for my age. Anyway, then I had some of the Olympic moments, like the Michael Phelps and Tara Lipinski and stuff like that. So, anyway,
yeah,
that was kind of my list.
Yeah, I love the Tonya Harding thing. That was great. Yeah. I'm completely kidding, guys. Okay, just relax. The game is going to be on Stadium. Watch it. It is. What time is that? Is that 7?
3 Central.
3.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's an early one. Okay, sorry. It's 4 Eastern, 3 Central. Played down in Nashville at the Nissan Stadium. So check the game out. Go ahead, bud.
Yeah, it should be a good time. I mean, this is a big, if we somehow pull this one off, Helton will tie Brom, Taggart, and Petrino for most P5 wins at 1. So, it's a really big opportunity. So,
yeah.
I mean, we don't have that long of FBS history, and we weren't really pulling upsets before we moved up. So, this is a great time. I mean, anytime you play an in-state rival, you can get attention. There's so many dual alumni fans, or fans of the team that are also fans of Louisville. It's a good chance to show that we can compete with the supposed big brothers of the state. Last year we proved we could. Now let's just go win one. So.
Yep, completely agree there, bud.
Amen.
Yep.
Amen.
Like, share, subscribe. If you've made it this far, we appreciate your support. And check out the towel rack. They got content going every day. Matt is working his fingers to the bone, trying to keep articles coming, and while the rest of us kind of slack off like I do. But check out all the guys. They're always writing, always supporting Western, because it's from the love for Western in our hearts that we support them. So, guys, go Tops, and check out Western playing Louisville this Saturday.
Go Tops.